Interior, Henry's car, night. Finally on their way, Henry is driving. Jimmy in the passenger seat and Tommy in the rear seat, embracing the shovel, are dozing off. The sleepy humming of the wheels is suddenly interrupted by a thumping sound. At first, Henry thinks he has a flat, but the thumping is too irregular. Jimmy awakens. His eyes are on Henry. Tommy leans forward from the rear seat. Silence. Thump. Silence. This is part of the infamous opening scene to Martin Scorsese's 1990 gangster film, Goodfellas. The film begins in media res, or in the midst of things, so the context of the scene actually occurs much later in the movie. However, I believe that using this scene as the introduction to the film effectively sets up the main characters, the mood, and genre of this film through its filmmaking and storytelling techniques. It is the perfect opening to a film. This will be a shot-by-shot look at the opening to Goodfellas. Let's start by examining the small bit we just saw with Henry, Jimmy, and Tommy sitting in the car. The very first shot of the movie is of Henry's sedan, which helps to establish the iconography of this gangster film. This, paired with the trio's expensive-looking suits, secures the idea that these men care about their appearances, which is a staple of any typical gangster movie. Cars and fancy clothing are essential for the gangster genre, and the camera's position places Henry in the foreground, cementing him as the main character in the audience's view. The scene tenses up as a mysterious rumbling is heard. Henry hears the noise at the same time the car passes under a streetlight, emphasizing the sound through a visual. The characters are led to slowly decipher what the sound could be while still leaving the audience in the dark. As the men pull over and gather around the trunk of the car, Tommy and Jimmy are seen with weapons, which is another important element of the gangster genre. Violence is pivotal in gangster movies. A short zoom on the trunk of the car raises the suspense as, in the audience's eyes, anything could be in there. The murderous bloody red light from the car's taillights bathes the men, strengthening the growing notion that what they are doing might not be entirely legal. Jimmy gives a nod to Henry to open the trunk, securing Jimmy's position as the leader of the group. The camera pans to Henry as if it is following the action as it happens. A match cut smoothly joins two shots of Henry unlocking the trunk to reveal what the strange thumping was all along. A bloody, mangled body. Tommy instinctively and immediately begins stabbing the body, proving that he is the loose screw in the family. Henry stands as a passive observer as Jimmy, calmly but coldly, provides the finishing bullets to kill the unknown man. The gunshots accompany a rhythmic edit as the camera cuts to Henry's face and the dead body with each bang, adding to the brutality that Henry is not fully accustomed to. Henry, with a blank look glued onto his face, shuts the trunk, sealing the fate of the unrevealed corpse as his voiceover plays.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
His solo line backs up his status as the main character. A dolly shot leads into a freeze frame of Henry, supplemented by Tony Bennett's Rags to Riches, which ends the scene and adeptly sets up the remainder of the film. Oof. Well, that was a lot to examine in a scene that is only a minute and a half long. So overall, what can we unpack from it? The mise-en-scène of the scene, including the costumes and the lighting, sets up the gangster genre that the film will strictly adhere to. These are sinister men who are doing some illegal stuff. The cinematography places the audience right in the midst of the action, right in between the body and the killers. It also highlights Henry, who will be the focal figure in the film. The editing allows the scene to flow together, with many long, uninterrupted shots that are abruptly interrupted by Jimmy's quick, jarring gunshots. The sound is minimal and natural. The main elements are the thumping in the trunk and the ambiance of the forest. Again, this provides a contrast with the grotesque cacophony of the stabbings and shootings. Tony Bennett's song supplies classiness and elegance in lieu of the murder, which is something that the gangsters strive for. In terms of narrative structure, utilizing a scene from the middle of the film as the opening sets up the audience to be discombobulated. They are left wondering how these events came to be, which will eventually be answered, but the lack of explanation or setup produces intrigue and interest. The film begins with a bang, no pun intended. I absolutely adore how Goodfellas begins. It is a finely tuned and compact scene that subconsciously provides the audience with enough plot and violence to keep them entertained, but is slimmed down to leave them wanting more.